Hi everyone, it's Nichol Spohr here, and today I'm going to be sharing several ideas showing how to use the brand new Taylored Expressions Masking Stencils 3 ways. There are so many ways to use these, and I will be linking up to another video at the end of this one showing another way to use them. There are 4 different designs. There are squares, rectangles, circles, and ovals. And I'm going to be sharing the rectangles, circles, and ovals today, but you can mix and match and use these techniques with any of the shapes. These are super awesome stencils for creating amazing effects without additional layers, which I absolutely love. We're going to start by creating the repeating circles. This is with the smallest of the circle stencils. You're going to be getting 2 different sizes in this. I'm using this one really non-traditional, so that means I'm just layering it wherever I want and inking up that circle shape anywhere on my card. The key to this is to make sure that I keep that stencil in place. I did use a little post-it tape. You could use other low-tack tape as well to hold it in place. Then I inked up my first circle with some Strawberry Milkshake Taylored Expressions dye ink and a blender brush. Next, I am going to take the Scattered Stars stencil without removing the masking stencil and stencil through that again with Strawberry Milkshake ink to create a tone-on-tone effect. I love this technique. So instead of a solid circle, which is pretty in itself, these are going to be pattern circles. Next, I'm going to remove my stencil and tape it in another area. What I really love with this technique is creating some overlap. So next I'm going to be inking up that circle with the Watermelon Taylored Expressions ink. I think it's key with this technique to make sure you're cleaning your stencil really well in between changing colors so you don't cross-contaminate. After I've inked the whole circle with watermelon ink, I again will take the Scattered Star stencil and ink through it with a little heavier hand for that tone-on-tone circle. I found that the best way to clean my stencils is to spray a little stamp cleaner on a microfiber cloth and then wipe my stencils clean. Dye ink works a little differently than a distress or water-based ink, meaning it's a little tougher to clean with just water. Whenever I'm cleaning one of those inks, I use water on my stencils and it comes off really easily. In this case, I would definitely recommend some sort of a stamp cleaner as it removes the ink very quick. The next color I used was Candy Corn. This is the perfect color for Halloween, definitely. After I ink and layer on the Scattered Stars, I'm going to again clean my stencil and move on to my next color. We are inking a A2 sized background, meaning 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inches. And I want my circles to pretty much completely cover the whole thing. So there's going to be some hanging off the sides, these in the center, and I'm just going to fill in with all rainbow color. Definitely going for rainbow effect with this particular card, and there's going to be little touches of rainbows in my other 2 cards as well. This is the Lemon Meringue Taylored Expressions ink, again applied with the awesome rainbow blending brushes from Taylored Expressions. We'll clean this up and we're going to move on to green. In this case, I'm using the Taylored Expressions Granny Smith color. And you can see over there on the right side of the card, I definitely need to fill in with some additional circles to make this a more balanced design. I had started to ink the Granny Smith color and I didn't really like the placement. I was able to lift that up because I can cover up what I've just inked. For a different look, you could take different pattern stencils and make each circle a little bit different if you wanted to. Also, you could use the small square stencil for a similar effect, just in a different shape. I think it would be really fun to use the rectangles as well, and maybe even the oval. After After the green Granny Smith circle, we are going to next use saltwater taffy, which is probably one of my favorite colors because of that beautiful aqua color. If you guys have followed me before, you know what a huge fan I am of aqua. And finally, I decided I needed a little bit more. I probably could have been done here, but I felt like it was still missing something. So we're going to ink 2 partial extra circles, and that is the first one will be the blue raspberry color, which is a little bit darker blue, or pardon me, first I'm going to do purple, and that is going to be the plum punch, and that's just a little touch up here in the upper right corner. Very teeny tiny, very small, but it packs a big punch. Just as far as filling in white space that really needed to be filled in. Okay, after we've done that, we will add that blue raspberry down at the bottom. I felt like I just needed another little pop of color. And so I'll just layer a very, very tiny sliver down here along the bottom edge before we do the finishing details. I could have left this video only at adding or showing the stenciling techniques, but I really wanted to share creating my cards from start to finish. And so I will be sharing all of the steps that I took to finish my cards with additional Taylored Expressions stamps and dies, starting with this Caps Lock Yay. I absolutely adore this die. Fantastic. We're going to start by die cutting it directly from our stenciled background. Then we're going to put strong adhesive all over our card front and replace our panel. We're going to remove our letters and put our panel right down there on the card base. Then we're going to die cut the Caps Lock Yay from some foam, craft foam, and we're going to glue this right into the open space on our card. Then we will replace the die cut letters that we just die cut from the background on top of the craft foam. This is going to give some dimension to that Caps Lock Yay, which I really love, without losing any of the fabulous stenciled and inked detail that we just added. Here are those craft foam pieces. If you don't have craft foam, you could always die cut the Caps Lock Yay from multiple pieces of cardstock and stack them one on top of another for a very similar effect. We're going to replace that little inside piece of the letter A directly to the card base, using some craft tweezers to apply that. And then once I have my liquid adhesive all over the craft foam, I'll put my letters on top as well as the exclamation point, and then I'm going to put something heavy like acrylic blocks on top of this to hold those letters in place while my liquid adhesive dries. This is important because I don't want them to roll up at all. I'm going to let that set and dry while I work on the rest of my card. I'm going to take the Simple Strips Birthday and the Simple Strips die, and I'm going to stamp the Simple Strips Birthday on this Simon Says stamp slate gray cardstock using a clear embossing ink and heat embossing with white embossing powder. The Simple Strips from Taylored Expressions are so super popular, and they have them in so many different occasions now that it makes it really fantastic. What I love is you can stamp lots of sentiment strips at once and die cut them all at once. Such a brilliant, brilliant idea. Any of the strips that I don't use for my card, I can save for another card at another time. That is something else that I absolutely love, is that next time I create a birthday card, I can go right to this group of sentiment strips that I didn't use and pop them on a card really easily. I'm going to tape my die in place. This is the Simple Strips die that works with multiple stamp sets from Taylored Expressions, and die cut those strips. Then I'm going to lay them out and pick the 3 that I think are going to work best for my card design. I purposely tried to pick sentiment strips that I thought went together and also worked lengthwise for my card. I'm going to be stacking these underneath the Caps Lock Yay on my design, and it's really important that I have the right kind of placement. Look how awesome these are. Another tip is I knew I wanted to use a neutral color of cardstock for my strips, but I didn't want to use black. For whatever reason, black just wasn't I thought it would be too harsh and might kind of take away from the colorful rainbow effect of my stenciled background. In those instances, gray is a go-to. Whether it be dark gray like I'm using here or a lighter shade, gray is a great alternative to black if you're looking for something a little softer. I'm going to adhere my sentiment strips with foam adhesive so they match the dimension of the caps lock yay. I've stacked these one on top of another and popped them right underneath. Finally, let's add a little bling to our card. I'm going to take some pretty pink posh gems and using them in rainbow color, glue those in place all around the background of my card. This is going to add a great little touch of glitz and glimmer to a really bright and fun birthday card design. I absolutely love this stenciling technique as it allows you to use the masking technique in a completely different way. Next, I'm going to share an idea on how to stencil on colored cardstock, doing a tone-on-tone effect, so you don't only have to use white. We're going to tape our 4" by 5 1/4 inch panel to our stencil, and you can see those lines there on the back of the stencil, which make it really easy to line up perfectly so that you have a balanced design. I'm going to tape it in place, flip it over, and then I'm going to take Blue Raspberry Taylored Expressions ink, and this time I'm not going to ink the whole stencil. This is a tone-on-tone effect. I just want that shape of the rectangle, so I will be stenciling around the edges only. This is going to give the illusion of that layer while still giving us that beautiful light blue outline. This blue cardstock is Hero Hues Paradise. I wanted the falling snow look on my card. So to create that, I'm going to have this great little rectangle shape, which gives me an instant layer without the bulk or extra layers on my card. And I'm going to make sure that this is really good and dry before I add my next step. You can hit your background with a heat tool. Please remember to remove your stencil first or it can melt. Or you can let it sit and completely air dry. It won't take that terrible long. However, I walked away for a little bit. I actually came back and finished this later on. This is the Snow Flurry stencil that I am going to add some white pigment ink through this on top of the dye ink that I stenciled that rectangle with. I have not removed my rectangle because I need to use that to keep the Snow Flurry inside that rectangle shape. I love these masking stencils for being able to really keep the stencil or the extra stencils in the case of my cards today in that shape. I think it's one of the best things about the stencils, and look at that awesome little scene that we have created on our background. The Snow Flurry has stayed within the rectangle shape. You could do this with any of the different masking shape stencils. Next, we're going to take the Fluffy Friends holiday images as well as the Simply Smitten images and stamp them on some Neenah smooth white cardstock. I stamped both of them at once because I've already inked my last background, even though I'll actually share you the inking of that in a minute. We're coloring in our images with Copic markers. I have left most of the coloring in the video. If I have repeated any coloring, for example, this reindeer coloring is going to be very similar to the bear coloring. Because they're used on different cards, I colored them exactly the same pretty much, and I just left that coloring out to save a little bit of time since this is such a long video today. E40, 43, 44, 47, and 49 were used for this adorable little chubby reindeer. So stinking cute. We're going to be using the reindeer and the penguin on our holiday falling snow background card here, as well as the stack of gift packages. In addition, after I had colored and die cut these Fluffy Friends holiday images, I really felt like I needed something to add a little height to my design, and you'll see that here in a minute. I went back and actually stamped the cute little bird that's wearing a stocking cap, colored him in and die cut him, and he will also be added to the card. You probably noticed that in the finished card example. I'm adding some little dot detail to my coloring on the reindeer to give him some fun texture. One of my favorite things about my cards today is that all of them feature a rainbow of some sort. So our first card, the birthday card, featured a rainbow assortment of stenciled circles. My next two cards feature rainbow scarves. I did this very much on purpose as I love a little rainbow everywhere. So I am coloring in the scarf with rainbow color, alternating with my colors on each little stripe of this scarf. I also didn't share the rainbow coloring of the scarf on the bear as it's all of the same colors. Please reference these colors here across the bottom of the screen if you're wondering at any time what colors I used for the bear's scarf as well. I'm using RV 52 and 55 for pink, R35 and 39 for red, YR 04 and 09 for orange, Y08 and 17 for yellow, YG 21 and 25 for green, and B01 and 04 for anything that's blue. For the penguin, we're going to use warm grays, warm gray 1 and 00 for the inside part of the penguin, YR 04 and 09 for the beak and feet, and warm gray 6 and 8 for the darker parts of the penguin. I'm going to work to get a nice blend and also add some pink to the cheeks with R00. We want our packages to also be bright and colorful. Because we have that bright colorful scarf, I tried to add pops of color elsewhere, but not repeat the rainbow pattern. Let that stand kind of on its own. So the gift packages, the heart on the bottom package will be colored with red. That's going to be R35 and R39. And then we will also add red to the bow. Same colors. I've mentioned this in many videos, but I want to mention it here in case you're visiting for the first time. One of my favorite design elements and something I do on pretty much every card I create, not every card, but the vast majority I would say, is I add pops of red somewhere. I love little pops of red. I think they just draw your eye in. For whatever reason, it's something that I do a lot, and I've noticed that I do it a lot. And in this case, the ribbon on the package and the heart both have that great red. There's also red in the scarf, and I will be adding some red heart accents to the finished card to balance out the design. The bottom gift package is YG 21, 25, and 17, and the pink package is RV 52 and 55. Next, we're going to place our background in the MISTI and stamp a sentiment from the Fluffy Friends Holiday Stamp Set. I want to stamp this with a clear embossing ink and heat emboss with white embossing powder. It's super important that your background is completely dry before you do this step. Remember, I used white pigment ink to stencil in the snow, and if it's still wet, the embossing powder will stick to it. You can always hit your background with a heat tool, or in my case, I actually let this sit and dry completely overnight. I stamped Sending Holiday Hugs at the top of this, but you could use any of the fun sentiments from that Fluffy Friends Holiday Stamp Set or other holiday stamp sets from your craft stash. We are ready to finish our card. I'm going to adhere my cute little critters and images with foam adhesive to help them pop off of our falling snow background. I love how the masking stencil rectangle instantly frames up this cute scene. I don't have to fill the entire area of my background. It instantly looks matted and framed, which I love. I love, love, love having backgrounds that are not tons of different layers. We've got our cute little penguin tipped to the side, kind of coming out from behind the packages, and then our reindeer standing there. We're going to add some crystal lacquer to the beak, the heart, and the nose. And you can see that I definitely need some height. I took a black glaze pen and added detail to the penguin's eyes, and then decided everything is too much the same height along the bottom edge. That's where I decided to stamp that bird that I mentioned earlier from the Fluffy Friends Holiday Stamp Set. I'm going to color him in quickly, die cut him with the coordinating die, and then pop him up on top of the penguin's head, so like he's standing up there on top of the penguin. This adds a great little touch of height to the design, as well as I think balances it out all a little bit better. I did pull in a little Y11 with my Y08 for the belly of this bird. The final touch for this card is I'm going to add some white dot pen detail to the penguin's cheeks and the reindeer's cheeks, and then take some great little red heart accents from honeybee stamps and add them to my card. These are called the Candy Kisses, and I absolutely love them. I think that's what they're called. They're linked below in the supplies for sure, but I love, love, love them. They are the perfect size heart, and I love the shape of them. I've added 3, one right underneath the sentiment and 2 up above. I added them with a little liquid glue, and I'm going to let that completely sit and dry. Finally, we're going to use the positive and negative masking stencils from the oval set for this next card. So for this one, I don't want to stencil over that bricked area, or I don't want the brick area to be over the oval shape. We're going to be using the small oval stencil first. I've taped it in place, again lining it up perfectly. This is a 5.5 by 4.25 inch background, meaning A2 sized. It's completely going to fit the front of my card. Next, I'm going to ink my oval with candy corn and pumpkin Taylored Expressions inks for that beautiful orange glow oval that's going to be back behind our little bear. This is a fantastic fallish themed scene, great for the kind of weather we're having here in Kansas right now. I love that this stamp set, this is the Simply Smitten stamp set, actually works for lots of different occasions. There's some great sentiments, there's different sentiments to fit the banner, there's pumpkins, there's potted flowers, there's a nice little arch of flowers, so lots of different images you can use in addition to this. Plus you could mix and match your bear with other images if you want. After I have mixed the pumpkin and candy corn ink, I'm going to remove my outer stencil. Then I'm going to take my oval cutout stencil. You get both the frame and the positive and the negative, and I'm going to just hold that in place. You could also use some pixie spray if you want to, or something of that nature, but I just kind of held it in place and then layered the brick by brick stencil over the top. Then I'm going to take Toffee Taylored Expressions ink and kind of just holding down there in the center where that oval is with my fingertips, I'm going to start stenciling in this brick by brick stencil around the oval frame. By using this oval, I'm not going to add the brick stenciling to that shape. So yet another way to use these fantastic stencils for a one-layer background that's just super awesome. I really, really love this. Now, when I remove this stencil, I will have white around all of my brick shapes. I don't really particularly want that stark white. I'd like it all to be brown, kind of a brick on brick brown. So what I'm going to do is, after I have got my stencils, or my bricks rather, really good and stenciled, I'm going to remove the brick by brick stencil, and just holding that oval in place, I am going to ink up the entire background then. I will ink it up a little bit with some additional toffee ink, but I want this to be much lighter. I'll use a lighter hand to apply my ink all over. And you can already start to see the difference from the top of this panel to the bottom, and how awesome that brown on brown looks. We're going to ink the whole thing, and then we can remove our oval to reveal that we have not bricked that great little oval in the center. So it's going to have the beautiful glow to really highlight our bear and pumpkins. I can remove my stencils now, and we are ready to start putting our card together, coloring the rest of those images and getting them in place. Remember, I did mention that I am not going to be sharing the coloring or all of the coloring of the bear since it's very similar to the reindeer on the last card. For my pumpkins, I colored those in with YR04 and 09, as well as E47 and 49 for the stems and YG21, 25, and 17 for the leaves. I opted to color in the banner first and then stamp it with one of the sentiments from the stamp set, from the Simply Smitten stamp set, after I had colored it in. And that was because I didn't want any of the ink to accidentally maybe smear. I am using an ink for Copic markers, but I just felt it might be a little bit safer to color it in first. There's 3 different options for sentiments that fit this awesome little banner. There's Hello Sweet Friend, which is the sentiment I used, Thinking of You, and So Very Grateful. There's also 4 additional sentiments that you could use anywhere on your card or inside your card. Hello Friend, So Very Blessed to Call You Friend, I'm Simply Smitten with You, and Warm Wishes. Once I have all of my coloring done, I can die cut these images and we can go ahead and put our final card together. For the banner coloring, I concentrated the darkest part of my coloring near the ends and where the ribbon kind of folds in. The banner folds in on each end. That's going to be, I did a whole layer of YG21 first, then I'm adding in YG17, and then a little YG25 to blend out. That YG25 is my mid-tone color, YG21 is my lightest color, and YG17 is my darkest color. When deciding what color to use for the banner, since I saved it to the last because I wasn't exactly sure, I wanted something that wouldn't take away from the other images, yet coordinate and complement. And I really thought the green probably was my best option. I played around with using blue, but I actually really love how the green turned out. I'm going to take an acrylic block and that Hello Sweet Friend sentiment and just stamp that right on my great little ribbon banner. I stamped off the sentiment on a scrap first just to make sure it was stamping well, and then lined it up and stamped it right in place. Perfect. Another option here is stamping and embossing the sentiment. I think it would also look great with white embossing powder. We're going to adhere our banner with foam adhesive. Just like we did on the last card with the penguin and the reindeer and the presents, we're going to pop up our images with foam adhesive to help pop them off of our stenciled background. Starting with the banner first, we're going to put the banner in place and then place the bear and the pumpkins right above that before finishing our card with some of those red heart accents like we used before. I really like the placement down covering the bottom kind of tip there of the oval. I want to center that, and then we can put our bear in place. Other finishing details for this particular card is taking a white pen and adding white dotted pin detail to the bear's cheeks, and taking crystal lacquer and adding it to the bear's nose and the heart on his chest. Hearts on critters' chests are always one of my very favorite accents. I love them. Often I will take a heart accent or a heart stamp and add one myself. But I love that these already come on there. So cute. We're going to overlap the pumpkins just a little bit right next to that. And then it really needs just a little accent. So that's where these little red heart accents come in again. Adds a great little pop of color. We're just going to do a couple up here, and then we'll do one down below our ribbon banner. I also took a fine tip black pen and added eyelashes to the bear. Thank you guys so much for joining me today for these 3 cards featuring masking stencils 3 ways. The supplies I used to create my cards are listed and linked below the video here on YouTube. Here are a couple more videos featuring masking that you might be interested in. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to my channel to never miss a card making video. Thank you so much for joining me today, and we'll catch you next time.